And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Thurston County Commissioners PUD MOU update. And it is June 4th, 2020. And I'm Chair of the Board, John Hutchings. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Menser and Commissioner Gary Edwards in the House, and County Manager Ramiro Chavez. And Ramiro, will you please, besides Russ and Chris, introduce everybody else? I'm not sure who else is here.
I think we have the PUD commissioners. I will ask perhaps to introduce themselves and what district they represent.
Okay.
I'll go and lead off.
Go ahead,
I'm the chair of the PUD. I represent District 2. Commissioner Stearns?
I'm Commissioner Stearns, and I represent District 3.
Thank you for joining us. And I generally don't.
Commissioner Osterman?
Commissioner Osterman, I think, is here.
Yeah.
Who is?
Osterman,
Commissioner
Oh.
Osterman, yeah.
and I'm District 1.
Hi, Linda. Are you just on the phone then? Or are you hiding your screen or what?
I'm hiding my screen because I've
Oh.
got a week-old puppy but getting my heels.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
And
Thank
so
you.
We have on the screen Julie Parker.
I believe
Yes,
our
I'm Julie
assistant.
Parker. I'm the Assistant General Manager for the district, and John Weidenfeller, our General Manager, is trying to connect and says he's waiting for somebody to accept him.
I accept him. Good to see you, guest Russ.
You too.
Thank you. I mean it though.
I don't have anybody waiting on the waiting list, so I have accepted everyone who has signed in. So
Okay, let me see if I can get him to find the right link.
okay.
I'll go back on mute and work with him.
We'll accept him when he pops in the waiting room then. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ramiro, do you want to frame it for us?
Yes, this is a meeting long time comment, and it was just to provide a forum for both commissions to share some ideas. We have an MOU that you currently, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, you extended that, and I believe we have a signed concurrence by the Thurston PUD Commission. And there really is not a prescribed agenda today. It's just an opportunity for both commissions to share ideas and share a connection perhaps. I don't believe there is a decision to be made by the Board of County Commissioners today. So maybe you can start out with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
I'm going to turn to the chair, Russ. Do you have any comments, sir?
Yeah, we had some things outlined just to kind of introduction to the PUD, and then hopefully some jumping off points for potential further discussion or consideration. Number one, thank you to the Board of County Commissioners for having us, and we'll do the best with the environment we're in. Just a little bit about the PUD. We're a very stable board. This board has been reelected twice. Most recently, Commissioner Stearns filed and did not have an opponent. So he expects to enter into your third term, Commissioner Stearns?
Correct.
Third term. We serve 6-year terms within our districts. So my seat will be the next one up in 2 years. And we will cross that bridge when we get there. Just a little bit about the PUD and how our background. It was formed in 1938 by a vote of the citizens. PUD became an active utility in 2005 when the district had about 1,300 customers. It was primarily in the area of the Tangawall-Thompson Place water system where I grew up. It became my affinity for the PUD. And since then, we've grown quite rapidly. We currently own and operate over 147 water systems in Thurston County, and that serves about 5,700 families and a population of about 15,400 people, businesses, parks, schools. We also own and operate 128 more water systems in 5 other counties. And those are about 2,200 families, including families, businesses, and schools and parks. One of the reasons that Thurston PUD does have systems outside of Thurston County is when Thurston County PUD was formed, it was actually formed with systems outside of Thurston County. So that is something that is allowed within the Thurston PUD's charters. It is not something that we actively engage in, but many times water systems that we purchase have ancillary parts that are in other counties. And if there is an active PUD, then we work with the leadership of those PUDs to transition them back to the counties of origin. We most recently did this in Mason County with the purchase of the H&R system. We had some Mason County systems within that, and we worked with Mason PUDs to transfer those systems back to Mason. We do have a number of sites within Pierce County. It's our second largest area with 64 systems. And currently there is no PUD in Pierce County, and so we serve that role and support those owners with their water needs. Although Thurston PUD is only a water utility at this time, the district does have authority to provide wholesale telecommunications, hydrogen production and sale, renewable gas, sewer with a vote of the people, and electricity with a vote of the people. But right now we are very happy with our efforts within the water space. We have done previous work in the broadband space with a countywide assessment. We worked with the 3 cities on what pilot projects could be phased and came back with a perspectives of what those costs would be to size up what would be pilot projects. And after a lot of consideration, deliberation with the cities, it was determined that the unit cost per system would not be effective in providing high quality services to those that could be served. But that was a significant report. The PUD spent about $30,000 on that analysis, and it is still out there as one of the most robust pieces of work that's been completed regarding broadband, at least from a public standpoint. Just a couple of other areas I wanted to go through is number one, our MOU, mostly our purpose for interacting with you today. Number one, our goal is to build a relationship with the county commissioners. We work to serve the people. Many times you do get love letters from our constituents regarding rates, etc., and want to make sure we put faces with those as we go through our rates and our budget processes. And please know that as we go through those processes, we're weighing a lot of needs, just like you do. One of our commitments that this board has made is to an asset management plan. That asset management plan is so we have replacement costs and we collect those ongoing. So when we have a main break, when we have a replacement of a main, that we have those resources in a systematic approach to reconstruct our water systems. As you know, most of our infrastructure in this area was built late 50s, early 60s, and a lot of those water systems, we are now in that core replacement time. Tanglewell Thompson Place is going to have considerable investment over the next 5 years. Because that was a system that was built in the late 50s, early 60s. Probably one of the highlights that all 3 of the commissioners would like to discuss or throw out is as you have improvements in some of those areas that are within the county, if we are going in for significant water replacements, lines, etc., collaboration on timing. If you have proposed, road work, those type of things, then we would love to partner with you on those opportunities. The other thing is extension of the MOU beyond the end of the year, and really perhaps prioritizing areas that we can work collaboratively on and mutual benefit as we move forward so that we are effective government for the citizens of Thurston County. So from an opening perspective, that's really the jumping off point. Really want to answer any questions, dispel any myths, or develop any ideas that the PUD can support the overall approach from the counties. So with that, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Stearns. Commissioner Osterman will go Commissioner Stearns first, then Commissioner Osterman, just for anything that I may have missed, and then be happy to kind of have your thoughts in a response to kind of what we've laid out.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Hi, Commissioners. It's good to see you all today together. As far as what we have been doing, we've obviously been studying, the groundwater resources of this county, since we're, like everybody else, including the cities, are dependent on groundwater. And, we're concerned in the long run about its management because some areas are showing sign of over withdrawal. Scatter Creek comes to mind. I worked with Ty Menser on the Chehalis partnership, so I've seen a little bit of that. The maps that they've produced about how many wells are in there and where the water resources are at. As you may not know or may know, if you do a cross section of the county, and we've looked at this with geologic cross sections, the water table tends to thin out as you go south in our county and southeast. Sure, there's the Nisqually River there, but when you look at the general county in and of itself, the aquifers we're tapping into in South County are much thinner and easier to deplete. So I've been concerned about groundwater from a perspective of having monitored groundwater advisory committee in the past, in the 90s, and also looking at the way people pollute the system, such as disposing of farm animals improperly, illegal dumping, even wood waste piles like sawdust, which we see all over the county from historical use. These are things that contribute to getting different things in our water that we don't want to have. So we have very soft water, and so that's how manganese and iron get into the water. So these are just some of the problems I see. I just wanted to do a quick overview to show you, what major concerns are. And I'll pass it off to Linda, who might talk a little bit about emergency management. I don't know what else she has to contribute, but probably a few other things.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Linda?
Thank you. Each one of us has kind of designated ourselves into special interest or particular areas so that probably like the three of you, you're not covering things more than one of you at a time and coming back and reporting. So one of the main things that I was doing more of before we got this big change is emergency management. We have, through John and his relationships and for all these years with Pierce County, already has a water system in case of emergencies. So we have made one water tree and are looking forward to being able to attach that tree to a water source, a groundwater source. We only need that in case of a real emergency and probably a earthquake. Because if we have an earthquake of some of what we've looked at in our emergency management meetings, we won't have any clean water, any potable drinking water in this county. And for somebody, we're just water. And that is very important. And we've kind of taken the load on to say, we want to make sure that the people of this county have accessible, good drinking water in case of emergency. So we have stopped that during this virus, but we will be working on that more, picking a place. We applied for grant, didn't get it through emergency management. So we have to plan to have not only a water tree that will tap in, but we need to have clean containers, probably stored at fire departments. Anybody who comes to get water would have to have a new container. And we'd have to have somebody who would be in that area who would turn this system on when it's needed. So that's an ongoing thing that we'll be working far more with when we are able again. And people have the time to be able to give to this. I also did the real estate, and so we're in Lacey now. Our customer service is in Lacey. Our operation is still out on Highway 99 and will be there for, I think, a couple more years. We have plans to move, but not yet. I go to chamber meetings and economic development and kind of come back with what is the pulse economically in Thurston County? And I'm sure that's a subject right now that you Your hair is going to all turn white if it isn't already. We also are dealing with that, and we have our own special rules from the governor on the fact that we cannot turn water off. We can't bill when people can't make their payments, that sort of thing. I think you have the same thing with your utilities. So another thing that we've all done and looked at, and it makes our heart beat too fast, is PFAS. Right now, that's been put on hold as well.
Linda, what was that term you used?
Can you repeat that, please? Where was it?
PFAS, the contaminants, out towards the base, we know that there's some systems that have it. And then every once in a while, a system in our state will come up that has it that nobody can figure out yet. Whidbey Island, there's a couple places.
Is that
where-
the fire retardant?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Does it come out very deeply?
And I think is it just, help me out here, people. Is that just fire retardant? Wes, what do you hear from ecology on that?
It's also all the non-stick pans, anything like that.
Yeah, I think the paint on your car does it. Anything that,
Wow.
It's an emerging pollutant that ecology is currently working through assessments for risk-based and other approaches, looking to set cleanup levels, etc. And really how do we filter that from the systems. And in many cases, it may mean drilling new wells, those type of things, if systems are impacted from a cost basis. So, it's a whole world and not something that, we definitely could have our own work session on that, but just a point of something that we have to take in consideration when we're doing budgets and making sure that we provide safe, quality drinking water to our customers. Anything else, Linda?
just one thing, and that is one of the things that came with our purchase of mini systems was a system down in, I'm sorry.
That's right.
I have three things going here. We found after a while that there wasn't enough water right down by Tenino. And we have done, we have hired hydrologists to come in and look around our systems in two counties, our county and Pierce County. We just last week drilled 2 wells down there, but we're told we would be really fortunate if we found it because it's shale. So way before your time, somebody said you can drill down there in that. And we're up to, how much water are we getting, John?
We're at 4.5 gallons per minute on one well and a little bit under 4 on one. And
Okay.
that's after a 24-hour sustained. We're hoping that we get 3 gallons per minute sustained flow from both.
Okay. What I guess that happened in the past is, they tested how much water was coming out and didn't realize that it was drawing out from between the shale pieces, and then it was gone. There wasn't any more coming in. So we've been trucking water to those homes and doing everything we can to figure out good ways to serve them and not have to truck water. So I think that's just an example of one of the things we all come together and put our heads together on and study. So I'll turn it back, Russ.
Great, thanks, Linda. Just one other thing I want to highlight is we've created the Utility Rate Advisory Council. This is something that, based on our acquisition of H&R Water, was a necessary component for the PUD, is actually having a citizen group that advises and reviews proposals on rates and gives feedback to the board. And we're very proud that's going into its second year and has provided a lot of great feedback from the citizens that we represent and engage with. Some of the things are just how bills are reported, how we measure the water, billing cycles, all of those things that sometimes you miss when you're looking at the big picture about the details that can really impact people's usability and effectiveness. So something all three commissioners have worked strongly on. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you. If there's any questions that you have for the PUD, happy to respond. And then just overall discussion, we'd love to continue the partnership under the MOU and look forward to extending that and having a good discussion on how we can continue to partner moving forward.
Thank you, Russ. Commissioner Edwards, any questions or comments?
I do have some questions.
Go ahead then.
Do those folks that are out of county customers, do they vote for you guys?
No, they do not.
Pierce County, I imagine, right? And the other?
Mason.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I thought I heard Linda mention clean containers, so do you require, new containers? Do you require people to have new containers to get water from you?
No, I was talking about the water tree, and in an emergency where we would go with this water tree to be able to tap into a source. And, we can't be responsible if people bring their own containers.
Oh, okay.
So every container and it's been made for this purpose, we would have to give a new container to everybody who came for water. So those would have to be stored ahead of time, just like any other emergency thing would.
Okay.
Gary, one thing on the voting issue
Yes.
is only Thurston County can vote, and we can only tax Thurston County. So the people who are not voting are not taxed by us either, because as you know, we have an assessment on property taxes. It's not a large one like the port, but nonetheless, the people outside of our county do not get that tax at all. If people were to be able to vote, which is possible in the other counties, they could also get taxed too.
Okay.
Wow.
Are you guys providing a cheaper service than private water companies?
I think, that's efficiency of systems. We do a comparative study each year to private sector, but as the municipalities and many of the private systems, those are very localized and built for efficiency, whereas we serve throughout the county. And so many times the concept of utility is not equal, meaning that we have 147 different systems in the county. Those are 147 different constructions, 140 different sources of water, wellheads, etc., which sometimes does have additional costs. The other component that many of the other systems, especially the private systems that we've seen, do not have asset management plans. They do not have plans for reinvestment in those water systems. And many times those systems are run through their profit centers. And then when it has challenges with replacement, we see those get turned over to potentially Department of Health or to be sold at the end of the life cycle of that owner. So there's a balancing act there, and that's a challenging question to be direct. But our cost structures, we feel, are very competitive when you look at the dollars that we are putting back into the systems. We are not for profit as far as a governmental organization, a municipal corporation, and so with that, obviously our drive is not to produce revenues; it's to make sure that we can maintain the systems.
How do you acquire your systems?
Systems are many times we're approached that owners would like to work with us potentially on an acquisition to relieve themselves of those responsibilities, and we work through our general manager through those negotiations, and the board approves or does not approve the expenditures, and we look at per wellhead cost, per service cost, and make sure that we can provide value to those customers.
And what about your funding source? Is it a user fee plus that tax base issue? What is it?
Let me interrupt you right there, because that's where I was going to go also. The 64 systems in Pierce County, you're subsidizing that system then? What does that cost?
John, can you kind of jump in a little bit on as far as the cost structure? I mean, we are served by user fees, and that takes up a large piece of our revenue. that comes in. A very small part comes in from the property assessment. There's different ways those dollars are utilized. There's certain restrictions based on the type of monies we collect. And John, walk through that for us, if you would, please.
Certainly, I'd be happy to address that. We get a very small tax that was originally put in to pay for elections. That amount is just short of $350,000, and that's out of a $6.5 million budget. And I didn't. Could you rephrase the question for me, please, again, Hutch?
The 64 systems in Pierce County are not voting members, but they're not taxed either. What does that cost the PUD then to serve them?
We have one rate of service for everyone. Historically, the customers out of county have paid an additional $4 a month to be served.
Okay.
And so historically, that's been how we have measured that.
Mhm.
What's the size of your systems? What's the smallest to the biggest? Or
That's a very good question. We have currently the smallest systems have 2 and 3 connections.
Okay.
The majority of our systems are Group B water systems. So there's 201 Group B water systems and there's 74 Group A water systems. A Group A water system, the smaller ones are 15 or 16 or 19 connections. And our 2 largest systems are the Tangle Thompson Place water system, which has, I believe it's 2,300 connections, and the Meadows water system, which has around 900 connections at this time, Commissioner Edwards.
is there any reason, I'm just curious, why, I'll use the Meadows as an example, because that's a little newer development. How come you folks ended up with that instead of, I'm trying to think of Robichon maybe was in the business, or I think, Chris, weren't you in the business at one time too? No, I don't even know that. Maybe that's not true.
Sure.
I'm just trying to figure out how that happens, that you guys get it, not a private water company.
Well, we were approached by a private water company. The water companies go out of business. A guy named Steve Harrington, very good businessman, owned 140 water systems, and they were in 7 counties. He approached the PUD about acquiring those systems. We negotiated with him for a period of time. He made a proposal to the Board of Commissioners. The PUD commissioners approved the acquisition of that system. So it's private property, and he chose to sell to the PUD.
Let me get to Gary, get to Ty. Do you have any questions, Ty?
Yes. I don't know if we're going around, Rob, and I got a whole list, so.
Go ahead, you got several minutes.
Okay. Well, one thing is I just wanted to hear a little more about Linda's point about the, emergency management. We have an earthquake where the water tree idea, I'm not as familiar with it. If she could flesh that out, what do we need to do? I want to make sure that we're properly prepared, and what is it that you think needs to happen that we could help with?
Would you like me to jump in there, Linda?
I think you might have to, John.
Commissioner Menser, what Linda was talking about is we partnered with the Tumwater Fire Chief to bring a proposal to the Emergency Management Council to fund 45. They cost about $600 to build, to fund 45 of those, which we could strategically work with fire districts throughout the area to put in fire district. And so the total package of that would be they need to be assembled. So we figured it would be about just short of $1,000 to assemble them, probably about $200 per with the cost of labor. And then depending on the size of the system and where you put it, the jugs cost, if you buy them in bulk, about $170 for a 2-gallon jug, 1 or 2 gallon jug. And they're collapsible jugs. And what you do is you pre-position those in a fire station or in a pump house so that when there's an earthquake, if there's an earthquake, and the system is a reservoir that's expected to survive, because not all will survive. That's the other piece of this, is there's the larger systems like Olympia and Tumwater and the PUD. The larger systems have have seismic valves on them so that when there's an earthquake, all the water doesn't drain out of the reservoir. All the newer reservoirs, say since 1990, are built so that that doesn't happen. And so the concept is that the Emergency Management Council would decide where they should be pre-positioned, and ourselves and the other larger water utilities could help the smaller systems figure it out. So that the only water for a long period of time that will exist, that is not flowing in, would be what's left in the reservoirs that doesn't drain out of the pipes. Does that answer the question, sir?
So these, when you say 45, this is a collapsible reservoir? Is that what I understand? You're talking 45 what was what I was asking.
Sorry, I'm not explaining that very well. And I will forward to your manager what was presented to the Emergency Management Council so he can share that with you. But the water tree is basically, it looks like, they call it a water tree because it's a 2-inch pipe and it's got spigots on it. I'm sure you've seen them. And people fill water jugs from them. And you hook them into either a hydrant or a valve coming off. So you'd pick a reservoir and you'd make sure that it wasn't in collapse and it didn't have a standpipe, a valve or a place to fill it. You'd want that in there so it could hook right onto that hydrant or that valve, so that the people that live on that system could hook it up with the help of water people or not, because we won't be able to get it under the scenario we've all been in the county emergency management sessions. If there's a large earthquake, the communities will kind of be on their own for a while. And so the idea is that the neighbors there could take that, they could hook it up. We could make sure they get trained ahead of time to be able to do that. That was the concept in a brief.
And so you tried to get a grant and it failed, is what I understood Linda said.
Well, there's a lot of different requirements for the Emergency Management Council's money. And I'm sure that they were interested in it, and I'm sure that it's worthwhile. It just didn't pass that one time, and we'd be happy to partner with whoever would like to do it to come back. We're putting them out in our own systems.
Another question I had was just if you could remind me of the elements of the MOU that we extended, like what exactly that MOU does versus the other things that we've talked about. Maybe Russ, you could just high level, like what's the key elements of the MOU?
Would you like me to bring those up on the screen?
That would be great if we could post it. That would be helpful.
I'll be happy.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we.
Oh, I need permission to do it though.
Coming.
I'm disabled, so.
I'm working on that. Give me a second.
Sure, second, you bet.
Time's up.
Tell me when you want me to try again.
Go for it.
Okay, so bear with me for a second while I find it.
Commissioners, this is good information. I'm glad we're having this briefing today. Very insightful.
One other thing I'd love to add, John, is a lot of people aren't aware that.
Good, he's got it.
Oh, great.
So here's the extension that the county manager was kind enough to work with me on, and that all the commissioners, PUD commissioners and county commissioners signed, and extends it through the end of the year. This is the original that was signed back in 2015. And so this was the current MOU items were agreed to in 2015. The Board of Commissioners and the PUD commissioners agreed to support efficiency and effectiveness in in-governmental operations. And the county entered into a cooperative relationship with the PUD to contract for information services technologies from the county. We've really appreciated that. That's been very efficient for us. You have an excellent IT department. The PUD will collaborate with the county to continue in cooperative and collaborative relationships where it is in the best interest of the county and the PUD. The PUD will continue to take a lead in organizing a work group of water utility professionals and administrators to work together on technical issues of common concern. We sponsor a Thurston County Water Purveyor meeting 3 to 4 times a year. The next one is tomorrow morning. It starts at 8:30, and it's on our it's via Zoom, and I send the county water purveyors and planning folks and the county manager an invitation to attend that. Planning within the county is needed to assure adequate supplies of water. Services are available for projected population increases. That was another tenet of it. The PUD is committed to working with the Board of Health and the county staff to solve problems with small water systems whenever possible. Another tenet was the PUD and the county agree mutually to identify operational and policy issues or concerns as they emerge and to work together to resolve them expeditiously using government-to-government protocols between staff and among the respective elected commissioners. The minimum level of service criteria for water systems are needed to protect county health, safety, and the environment in the county. These have been significantly improved, particularly for Group B and Group A water systems at the state level. Economic development opportunities in Thurston County will benefit from well-planned water utility infrastructure, and the ability to provide fire protection, residential, commercial, and industrial uses was another tenet of the agreement. The county will inform the PUD concerning land issues and GMA issues in unincorporated areas of the county and support the constructive involvement in these issues, and we have appreciated that. We get those notices, and we find that very helpful. And Thurston PUD is an approved satellite management agency by the state Department of Health and will be in a position to help the county, and that refers to receivership. Should a receivership come, we can assist you at least in managing that system until it can be resolved. And then I think this is the last one. The MOU may be amended by both parties and shall remain in effect in force until January 1st, 2020, or until terminated, and it was extended. So that has been done. And those are the tenets of the agreement.
John?
Very good. Thank you, John.
Hutch?
Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
This, the reason this is only a year, and we're almost to 6 months through it now, is to do an interim one, because until now we had them extended. They were 5 years.
Yeah.
So that we weren't coming back every year to do this.
So why do we not do 5-year?
We didn't because we couldn't meet before.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Russ.
is just, looking at some meaningful potential items to add to that list, to continue to move things forward. But I think, a mutual understanding of roles was important as a jumping off point. So, hopefully this isn't, my goal is not get the agreement signed and move forward. It's actually to develop some mutually beneficial strategies for both organizations that assist in water management and protection in the county, for the citizens. So, I think some of those are long-term thoughts, potentially around emergency management's one idea. Overall, something that I tried to work on when I was at TRPC was just basic water availability, and that is a comprehensive item for the entire county, and looking at what our short-term versus mid-term versus long-term plans on that availability as development continues, just making sure that we are aligned to meet those needs and ensure that either it's going to be handled by municipals or by PUD or private water systems. It is a patchwork that is critical to provide that necessary resource. So there's, I think, some clear opportunities there for a development of a partnership, and then just awareness of the roles of our organization and yours within the community.
Very well. And well said. That's why this is such a critical briefing. And before I get back to you, Ty, or Gary, is the expectation of the Thurston PUD to have a 5-year?
I'm clicking too many times on mute. That's something I usually have a problem with. As far as yes, but I think it should have natural check-in points. Once again, so it's in everybody's forward of everybody's mind. Obviously, you are very busy with a lot of challenges, a lot of responsibilities, and the PUD is highly focused on maintaining the water. But I think some type of check-ins would be great. So there's mutual accountability on moving the MOU forward.
Oh, good. Thank you. I got another few questions. I'll give it back to Gary.
I got two more. One, hopefully, the one was about last year we had a request about right-of-way. And I remember the board discussing it and we had questions, and I remember saying, I'd like to hear from the PUD commissioners about that. Like, let them make the case so we know exactly what the concern is. And this is our first chance to really meet with you. So I'd love to hear if that's still an issue and what the kind of, just to outline the concern from your guys' perspective.
Hey, John, since John, I'd like you to speak just so, because all three commissioners may have different opinions or views. Why don't you present the concerns of the board as that are universal?
Certainly. May I have permission to share a screen again?
You have it.
Oh, sorry, I got the wrong one there. Well, I rather than share it, I can talk to it. We had an issue along with the Puget Sound Energy where a customer chose to build a house that was actually right close to, or else on top of their gas line, and within 5 inches of a PUD water main.
Ooh.
In Pierce County and in King County, we haven't had that problem because they have utility setbacks. And so we worked with staff of the county, and we felt that it was a reasonable request to establish setbacks for utilities, and we'd love the chance to bring that back and actually have one of the board members come and brief you on that. But it is one of those things that we spend a lot of time and effort on, and the person, more than us spending the time and effort on, it was a major issue for that homeowner who got ready to do what they thought they can do under the law, and then we were prepared to stop it if we had to through injunction, and that just didn't seem to be fair to that homeowner. They ended up backing off after they paid money to a contractor to do it, because it was we considered it a public safety issue almost, to the point where we'd have to relocate that line significantly. And it seems to make sense in the public interest of both the homeowners and the public utilities that are out there, whether it be us or even Washington Water, who has a lot of water systems in this area, to be able to not have that challenge. Did that address it adequately?
Was there remind me, did you have a specific proposed setback that you were looking at?
Yes, we did. And that specific proposed setback was proposed of 5 feet. You've got, let me see if I can bring this up.
Is that similar to Pierce, or?
I believe so. I had our attorney wrote this up for us. You have arterial and state highways, which are 20 feet from the right of way. Collector and local and private roads have 10 feet. And it seemed to make sense to have a utility corridor that was 5 feet from commercial, industrial, and other residential, 5 feet from commercial, 5 feet from single family and two family houses, and 35 feet away from buildings that are housing animals.
So, I'm going to interrupt. Romero, is that the setback we dealt with a few weeks ago, or several weeks ago? We had that request.
So it's more than 2 weeks ago, and that was part of your development code docket item that you consider. And the majority of the board voted not to include it.
And that was for the PUD setbacks or all setbacks?
All setbacks, all utility setbacks.
All utility setbacks, yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ty. You had another one?
The last thing is just, I had a chance to talk to Chris for just a couple minutes because we're on the Chehalis Basin Partnership, but this, I've been lobbied on two different sides about this idea of PUD providing electricity. And and my understanding is it was going to a vote of the people. And my question was, kind of weird because it was a third party group. So my question kind of was, well, if it seemed to me like the vote was to authorize you to do it, but you'd still have to want to do it or want to run with that. So I'd like to know what your board feels about that. Is it something that you're interested in or want to do or think is a good idea? I know it's a probably politically hot topic, but if there is no interest of the PUD commissioners to take that authority, that would seem to weigh on whether or not it's a good idea to have that authorization given or to go to the vote on.
And I'd like to weigh in, piggyback on that because Chris or Russ, you and I talked about that, I believe, when we were on this TRPC together. And it was I had a couple questions about it back then, and it was a capacity issue as well. As well as how long would it take to ramp up to do something like that, which would be considerable time. So
I think, and I'll just, as the chair, just take a jumping off, and the other two commissioners can definitely speak. As you know, Commissioner Menser, this hasn't been something we've had robust discussions about due to the fact there is a process component, but not hiding behind a process component to answer your question directly. Since I've been elected, I came in I was appointed right after the last citizen initiative did not meet the requirement and did not pass. So obviously there was a lot of energy when I came onto the board around that issue, and my position has been that it was then and continues to be that I am open to that discussion. But from a business standpoint, the same as broadband. That is not something that I jump into easily. I need to make sure that we can provide the resource and provide the service to the customers, and at what cost basis that's going to be provided as. There are a number of components that are required legally to get to that point, a number of decision points, and there's going to need to be data to back those decision points up. I come from the toxic cleanup world. There's a lot of things that I would love to do and say, hey, we can do this, but the science doesn't allow you to get to a cleanup site until the science allows you to get there. The same thing. Broadband was something I was very passionate about. And at the end of the day, I could not find a financial model that led us to that potential success within Thurston County without a dramatic impact to the citizens from a cost structure standpoint. So that's about as direct as I can get. The board has been very positive about engaging. We've had multiple presentations to the PUD, and there's been a lot of energy around the ideas. But when we get to specifics, I'm very interested in that analysis that is not from a historical perspective, because that's what we have, and modern numbers and modern who would be the receivers and at what cost structure we could provide that. So hopefully that's fairly specific. I'll hand it to the other two commissioners. But do you have any questions on what I said just now?
No, it's fair. I just wanted to hear your perspective.
Commissioner Stearns?
I'd like Linda go first if she has anything to add.
yeah, good, Linda.
One thing we haven't mentioned that would help, because Chris and I have more time during the day to commit, we are more active in the Washington Public Utility District, the Waputa, which their main office is kitty corner from the Capitol. And so we go to the state meetings, and we're there with a majority of people have electric. So we meet with people who have all of the different components to a public utility district. In terms of the cost, as you know, we didn't start till late from what Russ started in our beginning. And so it's been piecemeal to put it together. We've doubled since we've all been together as commissioners. We've doubled in size in water systems. We've built our staff. We've got a building. So you're not looking at a long established company that we are to do this as a utility. So we're working like crazy to get to be that, where we work with the Department of Health, and we have a lot of meetings with ecology and the Department of Health. We take our clues and we get a lot of our information and share it with all the other PUDs in the state of Washington. So with that and all of the work that's been done financially, you know that we can't take any water money, we can't charge anything with our water utility to finance any electric or any other. And we work with other counties that got into this, Jefferson especially, worked with our county treasurer back then to talk about the finances and work at it from 2 different levels. So that's where we're at. That's what I'm at. I'm open to any of it if it can serve people in a way that, we're like you in terms of our service. We want to provide good service. We also have to have the money. And I guess the bottom line usually is money, just like your bottom line, I'm sure.
I often get, as a commissioner, questions about electricity and also fiber, as Russ indicated. And as you folks know, the cities provide their own water. So basically, we're not serving any of the urban residents of our county. And sure, I'd like to get services to them. I don't see a feasible way. I agree with the rest of my board about the circumstance we're in terms of financing. I'd like to get more services out to people, so I'm always strident and trying to propose business plans or look at different ways to accomplish it. Looking at what Kitsap County has done for fiber is a good example. But, with service in our county, we're a different model, nonprofit, and we're regulated by elections. Whereas a private water system is regulated by the UTC. So we have a difference, and a lot of the customers who come over to us from private water systems get confused because they don't understand that elections are the governing entity rather than regulating part of state government. So, I wanted to add also one thing about services. A lot of people don't realize that in the rural county, we're the ones giving water to the hydrants that everybody uses, including the fire department. They may check them occasionally, but they're not responsible for keeping them running. We are, if we are on that water system. If it's a private water system, then they are responsible for the hydrants. So that's another way we provide a public service to the county.
Gary, do you have any follow-up or any questions remaining?
Yeah, I do. We don't have much time left, but
Yep.
You mentioned you do planning for all purveyors, and is that all purveyors just in Thurston County or in your whole service district that you do planning for?
Sir, we do that only for Thurston County water purveyors. And historically, because we aren't sure how many people could fit if they all showed up, I've done it to water systems that have over 40 connections. For the one tomorrow, since it's a Zoom meeting, I'll open up to all Group A water system, and I believe there's 348 of those in Thurston County right now. And those are ones that have over 15 connections.
Okay. You were exploring the power issue as brought up by Commissioner Menser. Are you looking at eventually, if this was ever to move forward, would you be all power, all water, all sewer? A full meal deal to every citizen in the county, or never to the municipalities, but only the unincorporated area? What's your plan, your long-term plan there?
Right now, our strategic plan speaks very much to the asset management plan and managing the water. we understand what's going on publicly. We also understand that there is a process to get there, and we will address that as a board when we reach those decision milestones. I'm very concerned about the availability of water generationally here. And those are things that are my priorities. We each have different priorities, as you do, I'm sure, as a commission. And we put those priorities to the best use that we can during our annual strategic planning. So I'm sure if the citizens get it on the ballot and it's successful, then the PUD has a 10-year period that it will engage and work through the necessary processes to come up with a strategy that hopefully will work for the majority of the people.
Would it be a full county operation, or
it's
bypass the municipality?
There's a whole lot of variables that would fit into that, but so it can be any of the above.
Okay.
That was a multiple choice question.
How about the water meter issue?
The conversion from
Well,
B
I know
systems,
there's a move afoot by Ecology, for an example, to make sure that everybody has a water meter put on their well. I just wonder where you guys are at on that.
I can answer that for you a little bit. First of all, it's not Ecology, it's the legislature that passed those laws. Ecology is just born with the responsibility of managing water resources at the behest of our legislator, including all the representatives that you and I have. So what I'll say about that is just that there are no meters on exempt wells, but we are mandated as a public system to put meters on our wells. If we don't have any, they soon will have them, because as we've acquired systems, we have to modernize them by putting a meter on the source and putting meters on the customers. Group Bs have maybe 12 to 15 customers. And that's how we track down leaks, because we know what the source is producing, we know what everybody's consuming, and if the distribution system is leaking, that's how we find them, through auditory methods. So we then know how much water is leaving the system, and that's one of the reasons why the state mandated getting those kind of meters on sources and on people's consumption. The other reason is to conserve, and that's valid when you have a county totally dependent on groundwater. You guys know this as well as I do, that's a fixed and finite resource. So sooner or later, we're going to have to get around to properly conserving the resource before it isn't as abundant as we see today.
And then one other topic maybe is on the nitrate levels, when you guys are just checking for nitrate levels, are you utilizing the state guidelines, the federal guidelines, or the county's guidelines when you decide you've got a little too much nitrate?
John, do you want to answer that?
For Group B water systems, we use the county guidelines. For Group A water systems, we use the state guidelines.
Do you use the same guidelines for out of Thurston County in those other areas you serve
Yes, sir.
you do in Thurston County?
Yes, sir.
So even though the state guidelines might be, I'll just say 5, and the county guidelines are 4, you use the Thurston County guidelines then, right?
We do for everything in Thurston County. If, as you're aware, a county commission, if they choose to, can make it higher or lower.
Yeah.
And we have to get licenses for Group B water systems, for example, in Pierce County, from the Pierce County Health Department, in Lewis County from the Lewis County Environmental Health Office. And so we have to follow whatever standards that county states for the water systems. They only have authority over Group B water systems or exempt wells. So we would follow the county guidelines in that county that we're in.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just add.
Go ahead, Russ, because we have to wrap it up here.
Yep, and that's where I was going to go, is just in closing, a lot of good discussion here. Hopefully we've provided some information and answered some questions that would help. I know there's a number of questions we probably have for the county. There's a lot of questions at the PUD today. I think we have some of the county as well for potential future discussions. And we would look forward to engaging on at a minimum, extending the MOU, but then, you know, a long-term development so we can partner and at least understand each other, different perspectives and goals, so that at least we can work with each other as we move forward. So really appreciate everybody's time today, the thoughtfulness, the preparedness for the questions. Hopefully you've seen transparency and directness from the PUD and clarity on where we're looking to go, at least as this board. So I'll turn it back over to you with about a minute to go.
Russ, thank you very kindly. And my expectations were exceeded with this briefing. And PUD commissioners, Linda and Chris, thank you very much for coming in. John, thank you for your time and expertise as well. It's been valuable for me. I trust it is for the commissioners as well on the board. Romero, thank you very kindly. You have to run to another meeting, so we're going to end this now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.